Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. I just felt a little moment of delight right before I said children of God as I'm really reflecting, what that means um, that we are literally, I don't know if it means we're an extension of God, but, maybe just Bruno Gröning just said it so well that we're a divine creation. There's so many views of what it is to be human. um, that humans are just highly evolved animals, or that humans are just a freak of evolution, or that humans, and from the religious view, that humans are miserable sinners. But Bruno Gröning very, very simply said that each one of us is a divine creation. And I'm so struck by when Bruno Gröning said this and where. Bruno Gröning said this in Germany after World War II, after the Holocaust, when the whole world thought I can't say the whole world, but public opinion, was that Germans were evil, and not just Germans. What the German people had done had the whole world questioning, are human beings evil? And here Bruno Gröning stood up and very boldly declared the exact opposite. And he let people know how, to this day, many people, and specifically, I believed, and so this is my view, but the German people and the Jewish people have not recovered fully from the Holocaust, from what happened. Um, many Jewish people lost their faith in God because of the Holocaust. And human beings as a whole, I think, and not just the German people lost faith in themselves, and then human beings as a whole, the human race, we lost faith in what we are. And so Bruno Gröning shows up and says, not only, no, human beings are not evil, but he answered the question that everyone was asking. He answered the question that people taking in an incorrect answer to this question had them lose their faith in God and lose their faith in human beings, and hence lose their faith in themselves. And that question is, how is this possible? How could this have happened? So after the most horrific event in human history, people were asking questions. And Bruno Gröning gave very simple, direct, clear answers. So clear that even a child could understand them. But not having that answer, or having false answers to that question, how is this possible? Another way to say it could be, how can God exist and something like this happened? We can maybe come up with different variations on the question, but fundamentally, people were questioning and doubting God, and people were fundamentally questioning and doubting themselves, what they were, doubting human beings. And Bruno Gröning, with just absolute, no wavering on this point, he said, human beings are divine. No wavering, not human beings are 99% divine. Human beings are divine. Even when they are doing evil, even when they've done the most horrific thing, the human being is divine. And that includes me and you. This wasn't just a message for a specific, this wasn't just a message for the German people, and this wasn't a message for people in the 20th century. I'm utterly convinced, and Bruno Gröning was utterly convinced, this is the absolute truth. I've been raised, in this sort of new age, and I went to a liberal college. So, postmodernism, this idea that there are no absolute truths. Well, and and after World War II and the Holocaust, lots of people had lost their faith. And that's the other thing. Is there anything absolutely true? If this kind of thing can happen, that people were saying there must not be a God, or there must not be anything absolutely true. Or maybe even better said, there must not be something absolutely good. And Bruno Green said the exact opposite. He said, God is goodness. No evil comes from God. No punishment comes from God. And then in very simple terms, he explained how the Holocaust happened. In essence, he said the human beings are divine and God has given them free will. Free will allows people the choice to choose between associating with what's not good and associating with what's good. And by not good, we're not talking about stealing a piece of candy. By not good, Bruno Gröning was adamant that what is not good is evil, and he said it is Satan, that Satan actually exists. And it's not hard to believe that when we look at what happened in Germany. And we look at the evil that human beings do. But he said, actually, what I just said is false. He said that it's not the human being that does evil. The human being connects to evil and then becomes a servant of evil. And it's actually the evil that does evil. That doesn't mean that a human being is then freed from guilt. Bruno Gröning said, no, I am not someone who believes the human being has no guilt. The guilt comes from the incorrect use of will. It all starts with our will, according to Bruno Gröning. And so from there, God allows free will. Bruno Gröning said, it's almost a direct quote, he said that God allows human beings to really create hell on earth. And he will continue to allow that misuse of free will so long as life on earth as a whole is not threatened. So in essence, Bruno Gröning said that as long as life as a whole on this earth is not threatened, God will allow us to do horrific things and to make life miserable for ourselves and other people. It's not God's, he never said it like this. My understanding is that that's not God's first choice, but God will allow it. Now, on top of all of this, Bruno Gröning pointed out that only things that serve as a lesson are allowed to happen. That means that every negative thing that's ever happened to me or you, every horrific, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in Germany during the Holocaust and after the Holocaust. But every horrific thing that happened was allowed to happen and actually serves as a lesson, which means the humanity's age-old theological question, why do bad things happen to good people? Bruno Gröning gave a clear, direct answer. Well, human beings misuse free will. There's consequences to that. And then God allows these negative things to serve as a learning or as a rebalancing. In essence, what we'd think of a rebalancing of karma. Taking all this into account, what I understand Bruno Gröning's answer to be on this topic is that everything is controlled by God, and how to say it? Only things that serve the good are allowed to happen, and that includes the Holocaust. I'm not a supporter of the Holocaust. I'm not anti Jewish for saying that. I thought of converting to Judaism. And the Holocaust, like every other bad thing that happens, serves God. We have to look at the bigger picture of learning and karma and free will to be able to see it. But that's my understanding of what Bruno Grüning shared on these fundamental topics. And that these same fundamental topics apply today. How many people are going to lose their faith in God because I'm not going to say the word, but because Bruno Grüning has asked that during these gatherings we don't even mention specific illnesses, but because of the world health situation that's going on right now. How many people are going to lose their faith and say, oh, because of this, there's no God? So, Bruno Grüning, he said, I call you to order. And part of order is for each one of us to take up faith in God and the good and stand by it. And it is a fight. Negative thoughts, and and just to be clear, I'm not a prophet or a perfected being. I'm not a master of life like Bruno Grüning was. I struggle sometimes every second of the day. Some days are hard, some days are easy. I don't struggle every second of a whole day, but we each have this. There is a fight, and that fight is to stand by faith no matter what, no matter how crazy things get. I don't use the word must or have to, because that violates free will, right? If I'm like, you have to or you must, that's me infringing on someone's free will. So I'll say it like this. If we want to be happy, healthy, harmonious, good human beings, we have to stand by faith. Bruno Grüning said, once people take up, I'm going to find that, I'm going to find his exact quote if I can. For there to be peace on earth, people have to take up their true faith in God again. That was Bruno Grüning's world peace plan, is have the true faith in God. Here it is. Up till now, hate and envy occurred, not just among the Germans, but among all nations on the earth. This also has to come to an end, but it will only end when everyone has found their way back to their faith. There will no longer be hatefulness among them, among the nations on the earth, and world peace will be secured that way. So I don't understand Bruno Grüning, to be promoting a specific religious doctrine, but a specific spiritual doctrine. And my hope is I've just accurately conveyed it, that human beings are divine, that God is only good, that God allows free will, and that we as human beings have misused that free will. And because of that, there are and will be negative and painful consequences, and even horrific consequences. And even those consequences, painful and horrific, are in service to God and are in service to our learning how to properly use our God-given free will. So a warm welcome to everyone who's joined in. I just talk nonstop for 14 minutes, not something I do often, but I just ask to be guided, and hopefully in my good moments, I'm guided. And that's it. That's it right there, is that we human beings forgot that we need to be guided. If we're not guided by God, according to Bruno Grüning, we're either guided by God or the devil. There's no on certain points, there is no wiggle room. Yes, of course. Some, like, let's say if I'm working on improving my diet, there could be I could be, exactly tuned into God and know exactly which foods to eat, and, I'm not even gonna that gets things a little confusing. Well, that's a topic for another video. But in essence, that's how the Holocaust happened, is people stopped listening to God. And when you don't listen to God, you have no choice but to listen to and become a servant of evil. So I obviously feel very passionately about this. If any of you feel I've misrepresented what Bruno Gröning taught, please, after this video, leave a comment and let me know, because I believe the precise living of and understanding of what Bruno Gröning taught is what's going to is going to end all suffering here on this earth. So thank you everyone for joining in and listening to all this. Speaking of precise instructions, let's follow Bruno Gröning's precise instructions. This is what, I've been tuning in now for 7 years, and just this morning I woke up and I said to myself, I don't think I've been tuning in properly. I think I've been moving in the direction of learning how to tune in, but so here's Bruno Gröning's exact instructions for how to tune in. Put what is evil, the illness which has crept into your body, behind you mentally, and pay no more attention to it. So let's do so now. Let's put behind us every burden. And I'm going to say not just physical burdens. This includes fear and worry and life situations, but specifically physical illnesses. Let's take some time and really just put it outside. Put it, as Bruno said, put it behind us. We need to put it behind us so strongly that we no longer even have the thought that we have an illness. So that's what we're doing right now. Literally, let's say, and this isn't true for me, let's say you strained a muscle in your shoulder. Right now, it's time to put aside the thought that your shoulder is injured. So completely giving that over. Next, he said, focus your entire attention on your healing. I'm currently studying the German for that. I think I'm just beginning to study it. I think a more accurate translation, this is just a translation I'm reading, and I think a more accurate translation is but, or instead, give your whole attention to the healing or your healing. Okay, so we've put the illness behind us. Now we're giving our whole attention to healing. Let's do that. To my mind, what that means is we no longer have an illness. We now have a healing in progress and also a learning. Bruno Gröning pointed out sometimes we need to learn and change, but that's part of the healing process. So we don't have an illness anymore. We have a healing. And then Bruno said, now ask for the Heilstrom and concentrate on what you feel in your body. So let's do that now. Let's ask for the Heilstrom and let's concentrate on what we feel. Now, here's the part that I have not been doing. I do it a little bit, but this is the part, and I've never heard this spoken in a community hour. I've spoken it a couple times, but other than that, and this is the part that I think is really important. One person may feel warm, another cold. The next person may feel a tingling in his hands and feet, or he may feel pain. This is the Heilstrom. And what you feel now has no longer anything to do with the illness. Now, every sensation is a step towards your recovery. So, as we're tuning in, it's almost like we need to interpret, but it's not really interpret, but hold the paradigm that every sensation we now feel is part of our healing. So let's do that now. Noticing what you feel and trusting that every sensation you feel now is part of your healing. Even if you feel pain, that's if you've given it away. It's no longer the illness, it's part of the healing. Concentrating. All these years I've been saying observe, but I'm gonna study the German word and find out. I think concentrate is probably it's a combination of concentrate, focus, and observing. Every sensation is a step towards our healing. Let's hold that. For example, I'm feeling tension in a specific area of my body right now. And so, what I'm doing is I'm focusing, not zeroing in on it, but as I observe my body with concentration, I'm, and I hand over that tension, and then I'm like, okay, still feel the tension, but it's not tension anymore. Now it's a healing in progress. Now it's healing happening. Or as Bruno said, a step towards my recovery. Every sensation. The word that keeps coming is we now need to interpret it, but that's not quite the word. I bet there's a perfect word in German. We need to hold the view, hold the attitude as we're observing our body, that every sensation is now a step towards our recovery. And of course, if we pick up the thought that, like again, to my shoulder, like, well, that's funny. I said shoulder, but I rubbed my arm. My arm is fine, but your arm, let's say you take it, oh, my arm is injured. Then we need to give that away again. Then we've taken back the illness. We need to firmly give it away. And the final part of this quote from Bruno is, your body is beginning to readjust itself. So, friends, we need to take evil seriously. Evil is not a kid stealing from a candy store. Evil would like, if evil had its way, the Holocaust would be happening in every country for millions of years. Like, evil wants hell on earth. Misery, torture, torment. But it's not even that bad. Evil wants to destroy this beautiful, precious earth. How precious is this earth? Thanks to modern science, we can look at the other planets in our solar system. Millions of life forms of different species on this planet. Unspeakably beautiful. We've been given paradise. And evil wants to destroy it. Bruno Gröning said he stopped that evil now cannot destroy this planet. So evil's plan B, hell on earth. And Bruno Gröning said that, he didn't say that plan, hell on earth, but he said as long as life as a whole is not threatened, then we'll be given free will and evil will be allowed to play. So I personally don't want to live in hell on earth, and I don't want those who I care about. But let's be very clear, and these are my words based on my understanding of what Bruno Gröning taught. That's exactly where we're headed. Not eternal torture, that's what people normally mean by hell. But as a human race, we're headed for a miserable, unless we turn around. And so it's our duty to turn around in whatever way we feel that we can to serve that. And that's my understanding of what Bruno Gröning, he came to save this earth, which according to him he did. And then he came to show us how to escape from evil and evil's. This is my idea. I never heard Bruno Gröning say this. Evil's plan B, hell and misery on earth. So this is all very heavy. And so it's absolutely not our job to get into fear about anything, much less the current um, health situation. That's how evil operates. It creates nasty things for one, not just to torture us, but to get us to lose our faith. So our job is to meet all of this with faith and actually to let it be a way to strengthen our faith. So let's look inside and see if there's anything that we haven't given over to God or Bruno. Force with vigor, hand it over. Ask for the Heilstrom. Excuse me, before that, focus on our healing. Put all our attention. Ask for the Heilstrom, and now observe the body. And now every sensation we feel, a step towards our healing, our recovery. Every sensation. God moving our body towards greater health, happiness, harmony. And let's ask, dear God, dear Bruno, please, first and foremost, for ourselves, humility that we recognize our need for God, faith and trust in God, willingness to surrender and to follow God, to turn around. To have it revealed to us, all our habits that keep us separate from God. The willingness to be honest with ourselves, with God, about these bad habits. And if it feels right to, in essence, confess them to someone we trust. That's not necessarily something Bruno taught, that's more something I found very helpful. To be willing, please, God, please, Bruno, help us be willing to release these things. And please help us to hand them over. And then to trust and have faith as the recovery process happens. And help us to make right any past wrongs, any ways we've harmed people. Please help us continue to look for that which blocks us from God and to hand it over. Please help us throughout the day to seek connection with God and seek guidance. All day long, help us to grow along those lines. And then help us to serve. Please free us from evil so we can help free others from evil. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. I wish you a God-filled day and a day free of fear. And for us to be free of fear, we need to be full of faith. And for us to be full of faith and trust, we need to be willing to ask for help, to ask God or to ask a spiritual helper that we trust, such as Bruno, such as Jesus. And Bruno never claimed to have a monopoly on spiritual help. And while many people claim, and there's even some verses in the Bible that seem to indicate that Jesus claimed to have a monopoly on spiritual help, to be the only one who could help anyone. According to Bruno, that's not accurate. Bruno said Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and God has, I don't have the exact words, more than one son, or God has many. And I don't believe son, S-O-N, has anything to do with gender. It's a Jewish expression. Son of means one who is like. And that's why I'm convinced that I'm a son of God, that every man here is a son of God, and every woman here is a daughter of God. Or more simply, that we are all children of God, made in the image and likeness of God. And that is why no German person could have done the Holocaust. That's why Bruno said a human being can't do evil, but they can take on evil, and then the evil does evil. God couldn't do the Holocaust. A child of God couldn't. But a child of God is susceptible to a disease, a spiritual disease in essence. And this spiritual disease is nasty and vicious, which is the German word for that Bruno used for evil, means nasty, vicious, and evil. So while a child of God remains divine and can do no wrong, a child of God can also be, in essence, kind of become insane. And that insanity can sure do a whole lot of wrong. And that child of God is responsible for having, oftentimes innocently, but regardless, having said yes to evil. So let's stop saying yes to evil. Let's say no. Just say no to evil and say yes to God. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care, friends. Much love.